You know, despite the fact that Chucky from Child's Play gives a bad name to gingers everywhere due to the fact that his hair colour is one of his most iconic features and, you know, he is profoundly evil and murderous, I'm a big fan of the original Child's Play. While arguably not quite as recognisable as other slasher icons like Freddy or Jason, Chucky still has 8 films under his belt, so he's got his fair share of fans. Plus, obviously, he's everyone's favourite wrestling heel.
We get the fuck. What? Take a look. Get that dummy out of here. We're trying to conduct an interview.
For a guy who never shuts up, you sure don't have much to say, Mean Gene.
Well, just a second here.
One thing people didn't seem as fond of, however, was his 2019 release. Jesus, was this only 2019? I swear I saw this film like half a decade ago. What the hell is time? Releasing to fairly mixed reviews, this film is something halfway between a reboot and a remake, taking the original's core concept, a sailor-mouthed serial killer's soul being put into a creepy doll, and updating it for the millennial generation. In this version of the story, Chucky is a rogue AI build of a mass-produced high-tech doll called Buddy that consumers snatch up with enthusiastic delight. A weirdly ugly yet somehow popular little device that connects to all other products from its manufacturer Kazlan, an obvious stand-in for the Amazons, Googles and Apple tech giants of the world. Assembled in factories with terrible working conditions in Vietnam, a disgruntled worker takes revenge on the company by messing with the intelligence chip installed in one of the dolls before committing suicide. This doll is then shipped along with thousands of others before being returned by a customer to the Kazlan store it was bought from, in a scene that, for some reason, really tickled and amused my blonde mother, who was reluctantly dragged along to the screening by my little brother and has several red-headed kids. Can't imagine why she found this particular line funny.
Nobody told me the fucking doll was ginger.
Cheers, ma'am. Unable to afford a brand new doll for her kid's upcoming birthday, the store clerk Karen, portrayed by the always effortlessly charming Aubrey Plaza, manages to convince her boss to let her take it home for her son, Andy, who is aged up from the original film's 6-year-old kid to a 13-year-old teen and now played by Gabriel Bateman, who's very good. Andy, though kind and grateful for his gift, is initially unimpressed by Buddy, but being a lonely kid with no money and new to the area, he actually manages to find a budding friendship in his new robot pal, who is taken to calling himself Chucky. And it's kind of sweet, actually. Chucky helps Andy befriend 2 other kids in the building, and watching Chucky and Andy play tabletop games and stuff made me kind of wish this film was just going to be a harmless little family romp where a kid and his robot friend go on adventures. It is, not that. Things quickly go wrong when Chucky gets obsessed and possessive of Andy, causing him to do some, pretty dodgy shit. And since Andy's only excuse for the increasing levels of violence that surrounds him would be the doll did it, leaves him in a fairly few problematic predicaments, and it's up to Andy and his new friends Phelan and Pug to work out how to deal with these issues, as well as address the problem of the small robot serial killer they keep around as a mate, who probably won't be too fond of them hitting the off switch. This is a really fun, snappy movie, with themes that are admittedly about as subtle as a knife in the chest, but effective. The extremely obvious digs at consumer culture and corporate conglomerates selling us products based on their connectivity to already pre-existing other products is not only relevant and timely, and admittedly unsubtle, but it's also a clever and creative way to give Chucky more narrative options when it comes to making him a threat. It's already pretty difficult to suspend your disbelief and buy into the idea that a literal doll can cause that much physical damage. Like, I don't know about you, but if I was attacked by a killer doll, I would simply yeet said doll out of the window.
Whatever I want. What?
But when you give him a narrative logic to be able to manipulate technology, a lot of it dangerous, then you not only make a fairly relevant point about some of the problems with big tech monopolies having too much control over too many subsections of the industry, but you also make Chucky himself scarier. When everything is inherently connected, one problem in the chain, in this case Chucky, can cause everything to be dangerous, leading to lots of the kind of carnage that he's never really been capable of before. Things like turning up the thermostat to burn a victim hanging from a pipe, using digital screens and audio devices to toy with and taunt his prey, and taking control of cars with terrified passengers in. It's an imaginative approach in all honesty, and I prefer it to them just keeping the old formula, even if the robot personality does mean Chucky loses some of his iconic snappy edge. And while the concept of what's essentially the physical manifestation of Amazon's Echo getting all up and stabby in your face is inherently silly, is it really any more dumb than the original film's serial killer doing a voodoo ritual in a toy store shootout to transfer his soul to a doll? Not at all. Dumb is good. I like Dumb. If I'm going to buy into the concept of a rogue killer doll, I can also buy into whatever ridiculous origin story he's got. Besides the creative modernization of Chucky and also its Black Mirror-esque critique of the Internet of Things culture, the real reason I love this movie is it's just fun. At times it borderlines on being just straight up dark comedy. One key plot element I won't spoil too much involving giving a gift to a neighbour was morbidly hilarious, and the movie is just full of this kind of playful darkness. It's why I have no trouble putting it on this list. Like, my mum liked this movie and she loathes horror films. It's full of a playful energy that's really crowd-pleasing. While there's a couple of grim scenes that keep it grounded firmly in its horror roots, an animal is murdered, and I know that's often upsetting to a lot of people, and one moment in particular involving a table saw is particularly grisly and likely to cause a bit of watching through the fingers for genre newcomers, the film's main focus still seems to be mainly on having a blast. Chucky and the kids are funny. There's legitimate moments in this film where I laughed out loud, and it's got this really nice, playful, tongue-in-cheek energy throughout the whole thing. I mean, the soundtrack was made entirely with toy instruments, including everything from toy pianos to automatones. Come on, you can't be taking yourself too seriously when you've got one of these things in your soundtrack. And having scenes like hearing Mark Hamill voice what's essentially an evil Furby and sing a creepy lullaby corporate jingle to a child in bed who just looks at him like, what the hell is going on? Is exactly the kind of scene that if I saw written on paper, I'd be like, yes, this please, thank you. Oh yeah, I haven't even mentioned Mark Hamill voices Chucky in this version of the film, and that's excellent. Strong choice there. A great voice actor who gives an incredibly sinister performance that occasionally even reminds us of the Joker from his animated series days. One thing that got mixed reception as well was Chucky as an actual object in this movie. I've heard a lot of people didn't like the animatronic they used, but I personally think it looks great. Yeah, it's ugly and weird looking at times and doesn't have as much expressive personality as Chucky's original design, but I certainly didn't mind it. Its robotic look makes narrative sense, and sometimes the ugly adds to the charm, like when Andy is trying to teach him how to look scary. You definitely have to suspend your disbelief a little that something that looks like this is going to be a popular product, especially when it's meant to be a clear stand-in for the sleek text stylings of things like iPhones and Echoes, and stand as the best-selling product for a company that also makes slick-looking flat screens and speakers far more in line with the reality it's satirizing, but I don't know, that just never really bothered me. Honestly, it's a perfect Pizza and Pals movie to me, and a solid option for a horror starter film if you're just trying to get into the genre and are looking for something a little more on the playful side to kick your exposure to it off. Controversial opinion, but I actually like it just as much as the first film. It's certainly more wholesome, at least with the whole friendship dynamic, which is why it made this list where the original definitely wouldn't. I don't know, maybe if you're a huge fan of the original you could see this as some kind of milquetoast blasphemy, but personally, I really liked it. And me and my brother got to annoy the shit out of my mum for weeks afterwards by obnoxiously singing the Buddy jingle whenever we'd see her. So you know, get some bonus points for me there. Anyway, thanks for watching another video. Be sure to subscribe to my OnlyDans if you want to be my buddy until the end. More than a buddy, you'll be my best friend. See you tomorrow, buds. Until then.